We're live. We're live.
Where?
It says we're live on YouTube right now.
Do you see all those people?
No, this is I started a brand new meeting.
Okay.
Okay, just leave it live, and we'll have to. So I have to share this meeting. What do I do? Let me call Jen. Or do I call Trey? Who do I call? Don't disconnect it, Craig. Whatever you do, okay?
Okay.
Okay, we're live on YouTube, so I'm gonna send an email to the board. I think it's the best thing to do, don't you? Okay, you can announce it and say it's already a live recording. Please don't talk when you get on. Yeah, okay, bye. I'm sending everything. Okay, you heard that, Craig, right?
Yep.
This off. Cancel. I need to make sure I get Elizabeth on this. (2020) Board of Directors, 2020. See, 2020 Board Assistant, and I need to have John.
Hey, just a reminder,
Yeah?
we're live streaming.
You're talking to me?
Yep.
Okay, what'd you say?
Just a reminder, we're live streaming.
Gotcha. I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay, I know we're about to get started and just wanted to say, if you're watching online, thanks for bearing with us and for going along with us as we get through our technological difficulties. Thanks, technology. It's the best. And Jennifer or Chelsea or Craig, has everyone that's asked to join the meeting, has everyone been let into the meeting at this point?
There's a few that are still trying to make their connection.
Okay.
We're admitting them as fast as we can.
No, understand completely. I don't want to leave anybody out.
Chelsea, you think we're good?
We're probably close because I have two screens now.
Okay, I show 62. All right.
Jennifer, are you good for us to start, or do you want to wait for just a minute?
I think we're good to start.
All right, good deal. It is 3:05, and this call is now being recorded. It is 3:05 p.m. The open session of the Board of Directors will now reconvene. The board assembled in separate small breakout groups over the last 2 days solely for the purpose of discussion and drafting of the State Bar Strategic Plan. No action was taken regarding the State Bar Strategic Plan. Want to thank you, our directors, for spending the last 2 days working on that and for the great dialogue and communication. I want to thank Ms. Elizabeth DeRico for all of her excellent work, and I know we're going to turn it over to her in just a few moments. If you are watching, I want to thank you for sticking with us. Our staff is doing an incredible job of trying to navigate this virtual meeting. It is not easy, but they are doing an incredible job of that. I just want to say thank you for that. Mr. Rico, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Charlie.
Oh, Mr. Rico, I'm so sorry. I did it again. We got to call the roll, Trey.
Oh,
Somebody's going to have to put a shot collar on me and buzz me when I forget to call the roll. Trey, please call the roll.
Board members, if you will unmute, I will move through this quickly. Mr. Augusto. Mr. Alexander has an excused absence. Mr. Allison. Mr. Almanzon.
Present.
Mr. Baruch. Ms. Bim.
Present.
Ms. Brooker.
Here.
You're making dinner?
Mr. Cavillo.
Present. What are you eating?
I see him there. Mr. Carlos Cardenas.
Here.
Mr. Luis Cardenas.
Here.
Cook. Here. Ms. Cordova,
Here.
Mr. Crane.
Here.
Ms. Davis,
Present.
Mr. Dawson,
Here.
Mr. Dockhill, Ms. Hernandez here has an excused absence. Ms. Barunda Fur. Mr. Fisher. Mr. Flores. Ms. Forbes.
Present.
Mr. Ginn.
Here.
Ms. Goldsberry.
Here.
Mr. Gravely.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Ms. Harrison.
Here.
Judge Hatch has an excused absence. Ms. Hoggard has an excused absence. Ms. Humphrey.
Present.
Mr. Hurst.
Here.
Mr. Kolodowski.
Here.
Justice Learman.
Here.
Ms. Cortez Matas.
Present.
Mr. McDougall.
Here.
Ms. Kara Miller.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Judge Morales has an excused absence. Ms. Mount.
Here.
Ms. Murphy.
Here.
Mr. Naylor.
Here.
Ms. Rispoli.
Here.
Ms. Rowe. Mr. Schrammick.
Here.
Ms. Scott.
Here.
Mr. Sergi. Mr. Sims.
Here.
Mr. Jason Smith.
Here.
Mr. Michael Smith.
Here.
Mr. Todd Smith.
Here.
Mr. Sorrells.
Here.
Ms. St. Ives.
Here.
Mr. Tolchin.
Here.
Mr. Vargas.
Here.
Mr. Vasquez.
Here.
Ms. Welborn.
Here.
Mr. Wester.
Here.
Ms. Pack Wilson. Judge Erie.
Here.
Mr.
Here.
Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Executive Director. Mr. Rico, I apologize. You can have the floor back. Thanks for bearing with me.
That is quite all right. First of all, I want to thank everybody for their participation as well over the last 2 days. I know that this is a challenging way to meet, and we would much have preferred to have been in person, but I want to thank you for your time and your attention. We're going to wrap up today, and I'm going to shrink this a little bit, given our technical difficulties, to be respectful and mindful of your time. But I think we're going to have I know we're going to have the opportunity to come back together, but I wanted to frame the next discussion about diversity, inclusion, and equity issues in the context of conversations we've been having over the last 2 days. And one of the underpinnings of all of our conversations has been in the outreach that we do to our members and how we engage members, how we work with members, how we provide them with resources that support them in serving clients in an ethical and professional manner. One of the cultural values that we've talked about is creating a welcoming environment so that there are opportunities for people to feel connected to one another. Like the conversations we were having as we led into the more formal part of this meeting and sharing where we were from and where we'd gone to college and where we'd gone to law school, that those personal relationships, as Judge Lehrman noted in one of our sessions, are really important. And so by creating this opportunity to create that cultural environment that's welcoming, that's open, that makes me feel that I'm part of something, that leads to questions on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what that feels like and what that looks like for us. I know you're having a special meeting to talk about some of the more immediate issues surrounding this. So I want to think in this conversation for the next 20 minutes or so, I want to think expansively. So when we're all sitting in a room together, or you're sitting in a room together in 2 years and you're chatting about where you are organizationally and from a governance perspective and from a professional perspective in terms of issues of diversity, inclusion, and equity, what does that look like for you? What do you want to sit in that room and say is true? And again, we're not looking at the things that we're going to do to get there right now. We're going to talk about what we want to be true, what we want to be able to say is true. And so I would invite you to use the button on the bottom half of your screen where it says reactions. You can raise your hand there. Because of the size of this group, it's really important for folks to raise your hand, and I'll call on you. And so what do we want to be true? What do we want to be true looking forward as part of our strategic plan? Lucy, you had a comment in one of our earlier sessions. Can I call on you to share that?
Yes. Elizabeth, you said diversity means to be invited. Inclusion means being asked to dance. And that made me think about, well, what does equity mean? Equity means being asked to dance to that first best dance, the same one as the legacy members. So when I look around, I don't see people who look like me, share my experiences or my background, not necessarily. Diversity, inclusion, and equity have to mean more than words. It means you don't save the best opportunities and invitations for the privileged few. It means you share them with people who are qualified and competent to the task, even if they look nothing like you. And by so doing, the bar will be enriched by our diversity, perspectives, and experiences. I want one day to look and see people who look like me, to be in that first dance. Someone who's an immigrant. English is my second language. I was the first to graduate from college. I'm a single mother. I want to see people like me and others who shared the struggle to get into the door, to be in that first dance. That is equity.
Great. Thank you for that, Lucy. What else would we, so we want to see people who look like us. What else do we want to be able to say? And to create this welcoming environment. What do we want to be true? What do we want to be true? Anyone else? Anyone else like to comment?
Mr. Rico, I think you've got some hand raised on the participant tab. If you hit that participant tab, you've got some hands raised on there that might be showing you that way.
Okay, I'm not seeing them there, but that is.
Elizabeth, the first hand is
Rob Crane. Rob Crane. I'm going to call on you. Rob?
Sure, and I think Lucy, hit a big point here, and that is you just look at our board of directors room, and you look at the number of elected African Americans to our board. We've got one, and that is and not even that large elected person, and our president of TYLA. Our room needs to look different. Our leadership needs to look different in our committees, our commissions, the appointments we make, and that takes work. It takes, and the other thing I would say from a big picture standpoint is we're still trying to get our profession to look and mirror more of the demographics of our state. That takes a lot of work in pipeline issues and so forth. So those are the major issues that I see that I'd love to look back 2 years from now and think that we've made a difference.
Thank you, Rob. Sylvia.
Hi, thank you. Well, so I talked about removing some of the barriers to diversity in board leadership and talked specifically about some of the legacy arrangements that are made by the Metro bars that save a place for a past president with an understanding that no one will run against that person. So that when we go out and try to recruit diverse candidates to board leadership, that's standing in the way. So I think we need to have a shared value throughout the bar organization so that those kind of legacy arrangements that are standing in the way of our diversity values will fall away. And hopefully in 2 years, we can accomplish that.
Great. Thank you very much, Sylvia. David Cavillo.
Yes, Elizabeth, by the way, just so you'll know, it's Calvillo. The double L is a Y, so it's
Okay.
Calvillo. All right?
Thank you.
You can just call me Yo. Yes, I wanted to reiterate what Rob said. Definitely the makeup of the board needs to be more reflective of the profession generally. But then I'd like to take it a step further and say that the profession needs to be more reflective of the demographics of the state. I think it's that's very important, as Rob said, a pipeline issue. And I don't know that we have concrete steps taken towards that. And if we do, it's my ignorance, but maybe we can elaborate on that as part of our strategic plan to make sure that that we have at least our eye on that. Certainly, we're only part of the solution, but I'd like to see us at least from the top down, from within the profession, keep an eye on making sure that the profession reflects the demographics of the state.
Great, thank you. Yolanda.
Yes, I think that just to follow up on David Calvillo and Sylvia Barunda first, there are certainly pipeline issues and there are certainly diversity opportunities, but as directors, we are the boots on the ground. So it's up to us to contact our constituents, to find out what their concerns are, to encourage them to run for bar positions despite whatever perceived legacy notions there might be, to hear their concerns, to explain what the resources are of the bar and what the opportunities are within the bar and the bar leadership. To David Calvillo's point, we can do a lot more to try to increase diversity within the profession. And one of the things that we can do is reach deeper into the youth that are considering the profession as their career choice and encourage them. And there may be some steps and some opportunities that the bar can make to make that possible so that practitioners across the state could perhaps take on a student that might be interested in shadowing an attorney. And so I think there are a lot of opportunities that can take place, and we all have to make an effort collaboratively to make that happen. But those young students that are considering a career in law will be the bar leaders of tomorrow. So it's up to us to try to find out who they are and seek them out.
So can I follow up on something you said? And can you give us a sense of what that collaboration might look like?
The collaboration will require us to communicate and increase our communication efforts, not only within the bar, to our own bar members, to the lawyers across the state, but also collaboration among the directors.
Okay.
It requires us to dig deep into whatever resources we can attain, whether it's resources that are funded by the bar or resources that might come up as opportunities, whether through the Access to Justice Foundation or the Young Lawyers Association. But we can access all of our resources. We just have to, first of all, communicate to all the attorneys, because it will be a collaborative effort, not just with the directors in the bar, but it has to be a collaboration together in partnership with all the attorneys across the state.
Okay, thank you very much. Alan.
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. So one of the things that I happened to do some time ago, I happened to see the play Hamilton, and there's a song in Hamilton that sticks out in my mind, and it was sung a couple times. Want to be in the room where it happens. And so it's one thing, I agree with the previous speakers about the importance of that the bar demographics reflect the demographics. The bar membership reflects the demographics of the state, but it's after that, taking another step forward, to be on the board and then be in the room where it happens, it's a different thing, because sometimes people gravitate toward people that are similar to them that play golf, and I don't golf, and do certain things. And so it's one thing to be on the board, but it's another thing to be in the room where it happens. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you very much. Santos.
Yeah, I think people have made some very important points. I think obviously the makeup of the bar board is important, but we don't have to wait for that. In other words, every single one of us is capable right now of going out and reaching out to different sections of our constituencies. Just because I'm Hispanic doesn't mean that I can't go out and speak to the African American lawyer section, or the Black lawyers of San Antonio, which I have, or the women's bar. In other words, we can wait for that to happen, for the bar board to change its makeup, but why should we? Each one of us should be going out and reaching out to every section of our constituency right now and listening to them, because I think a lot of the times people feel like they're not listening to, and implementing and helping implement their ideas. So I think that the makeup of the bar board is certainly important, and I appreciate everyone's comments on that, but we don't have to wait for that to happen. We can do those things now.
Thank you. I was at a Louisiana State Bar program over the weekend, as I mentioned, I think, and it was their board orientation. And one of the presentations they had at their board orientation, we talked to 3 former past presidents who were African American, and from 3 different generations. And so they talked about their experience coming forward. And one of the things that we talked about was, we have a tendency, because it's sort of natural, to talk to people, as Alan said, who look like us and who, we know through those similar kind of activities. And to Santos's point, the marching order really is to talk to people who aren't like you. And one of the recommendations even was, among one of the speakers, is go to a worship service that's different than the one you are most familiar with, that it broadens your horizons. And I had never thought of it that way, but just for me personally, that was an admonishment to me to expose myself to something that was different than what I was familiar with. And so how we think about where we go and who we listen to is a really important value in this discussion. Diane.
Thanks. Shortly after, and what Santos said, it really hits on what I was going to say, is that shortly after the George Floyd murder, I had been talking with my associate who's African American, and a gentleman that leases from me who's African American, and my paralegal who is gay. And I said, how can I help? What do I do? And they talked about one person at a time. It's about talking to one person and getting the message out there. And I started probably a month and a half or so before this was really put in front of our face, to speak to some local judges. The judges are going to see the people in front of them, and they're going to know who's quality, who wants to serve, who's strong, who can help us. I talked to one of the African American judges. I talked to a local judge who's gay. And, I met with several people. Jason Smith has sent me the name of someone here in Houston who wants to get active. And so I'm working to mentor her into the bar activities. And I've talked to several people, and Santos is absolutely on point on this, is that we have to start now, if not 3 weeks ago or 3 decades ago. I can't believe we're still having this conversation yet. We still need to have these conversations one-on-one, and we have to be inclusive in our activities and in our communications, and just speak to people and not tolerate the sidebar comments that are racist or sexist or misogynistic. We have to do this one-on-one, and we're the leaders of this bar. And so we have to take that, we have to run with that mantle. And so I encourage everyone, and I hope that by the time we get to that meeting next month, we all have a story like that where we've spoken with others in our community. And I did speak with some of the other directors long before this issue so that we could start looking and encouraging and talking about diversity on the board, because we are pretty non-diverse. So that's what I have to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Adam.
Yeah, I wanted to say that it really is, in my view, a from the bottom grassroots up issue. To say, oh, well, let's just, ignore the local bars, et cetera, because we're not getting the, the right kind of candidates out of that. Why aren't we working with the local bars to help develop leaders that can then come up to the state bar one day? Brittany and I worked on the AYLA together. We worked a lot in the Austin bar, and now she's TYLA president. And that's a huge success story for Austin and Dallas. And, she moved around. But that's what we need to be doing. We need to be working from the bottom up and getting folks involved in young lawyers associations and bar associations. And before we get to the point of, what does our board look like? That's the work that we've got to do. We've got to work from the bottom up. We've got to promote that. And boy, how powerful was that board meeting we had last time when we had all of those members come and speak for 3 hours and give those personal stories. That was an amazing experience. That's what we've got to promote at the board level. We need to get that sort of discourse, that sort of open discourse, to where we can really focus on the problems in our profession and fixing them, and not just handing out another award. That's the kind of work I want to see from our state bar.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments that people would like to share on this issue? There being no additional hands raised, I'm going to go back to gallery view. And I'm going to very briefly, in a couple of minutes, just sort of wrap up what the discussion was and give you a flavor for what's next. So all of the work that we've done over the last 2 days, I'm going to put into some sort of semblance of order around those topical areas that we talked about that go to the state bar's mission and purposes. And again, this is a revision of the prior plan as opposed to a restructuring of a plan from the bottom up. And so then I will work with the strategic planning committee to finalize the language. What you will have is some really broad statements with some suggested areas of exploration for action. You're a large, complex organization, and then we'll work with the staff to operationalize what that looks like. So that'll happen over the next 3 or 4 weeks to pull all of that together with I'll do a draft, we'll work with the committee on what the structure looks like, and then we will go from there. I think we do have a target of perhaps having a draft for the September board meeting, is my recollection, without having those notes in front of me. My key takeaways from all of your conversation is action towards refinement. And by that, I mean a lot of reflection on continuous improvement and building from very strong foundations of what we've already done in terms of member engagement and resources, and much more about communication and the wraparound of what is very personal communication and personal experience, and leveraging the board around those resources and around those conversations to ultimately have the impact that we want to have on how lawyers practice and how the profession conducts itself and how we serve the public interest through access to justice, being mindful of all of our values. And one of the values we started the day with yesterday was diversity and inclusiveness in innovation and thoughtfulness. And so the ability to move forward within that framework has been laid by these conversations. And so I want to commend you for your work and the passion that came out in these discussions. They're hard to have on Zoom. They're certainly, as we've talked about, not as much fun as they are in person. But this has been a very enlightening, I think, experience for you. I hope it was. And I want to give particular thanks to Jennifer and Chelsea for their amazing organizational skills. If I had 1/10 of their organizational skills, I would get my clients billed in a much more timely manner than I typically do. And they showed a lot of grace under pressure this afternoon in trying to get the technology to work. I also want to thank Trey and John Sermon and Kaylin and Ray and all of the other staff who've been part of this process. And I want to thank David Kent and Mary Scott and Sherry and others on the committee for their leadership and being present for these conversations. And I want to end this day with a round of applause in those little boxes for each of you and all of your good listening skills and your thoughtful approach to the questions that have been raised over the last 2 days. I have no doubt that you will do good work going forward, and I look forward to watching this process unfold. If afterwards you have any additional thoughts, the Miro boards are open or my email is available. You can certainly share any reflections with me as I pull this work together, or anybody on the staff would be happy to share with them, share with them as well, and we'll be happy to incorporate that. So again, I want to give everyone as much applause as is possible for the good work that you've done over the last 2 days and the time that you've spent with one another and with me. So thank you so much. And I think, Charlie, that's a wrap from my perspective.
Well, Mr. Rico, thank you so much. I think before we close, Trey had a few words. Trey, it's all.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. And Elizabeth, I do want to thank you. You did a great job. Thank you for your leadership, your insightfulness, and making us all think over the last couple of days. I want to thank the board for engaging in this exercise. It's important to our self-governance, as I said earlier. I hope you found it insightful to you, and I hope you will be able to utilize some of the tools that we talked about in the year or years ahead of us. I do want to say a big thank you to David Kent, who was last year's chair of this committee. He started this process way back when and got us working on this over a year ago. And that led us up to this point to where Sherry Goldsberry took over. And then Michael Hurst, Cara Miller, and Mary Scott all participated in putting on this program. I think Alan Sims said it best, one of our public members. He said, it's all about servant leadership. And I truly believe that. I commend all of you for the servant leadership, because I know you all have a heart of service, and you have to have that in order to engage in leading the State Bar of Texas. So I commend you for that. And then lastly, I do want to thank our State Bar staff. You know who they are, especially Jennifer, Chelsea, and Craig Chapman for getting us online. I participated in these strategic planning meetings in 2014, 2016, 2018, and now 2020. And I can say without reservation, 2020 is the crown jewel, thanks to Elizabeth Derrico.
No.
You did a great job. We're indebted to you. Thank you very much. We're going to be better for this. And please come back and see us very soon. Thank you.
You're here.
Charlie, you're on mute.
I had great words and now I don't remember them. I want to thank Elizabeth so much for what she did over the last 2 days, and for our directors for dialoguing. To David Kent, he was a leader on our board last year, and for the staying power to come back and to give his time. To Sherry Goldsberry and her committee for bringing us home. We appreciate that. And to our staff, you guys are incredible. Thank you so much. A couple of housekeeping matters and we'll be done. We do not have a report from our general counsel or from the legal counsel, and we are not going to be moving into a closed session today. Do want to remind you all of our meetings on September the 10th and September the 25th. The September 10th agenda will be posted soon, and you'll be able to review that on the website. If you are a member of the public and you would like to speak at either September 10th or September 25th board meeting, we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you have to say. We want to use Adam Schrammick's words. We want to hear your story. And we'll be doing that in the same manner in which we did our last special meeting. To do that, please sign up. Please let us know, register your device with us so that we know we're letting you in, that you are who you say you are, just for security purposes. But we do want to hear you and encourage you to sign up. With that, I think that's all we have. Until we see you next time, please be careful, be safe, take care of yourself, not only physically, but mentally. Take care of your families. God bless you all. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Thank you, August Harris. We're adjourned at 3:39 p.m. Thank you all.